Once upon a time, in a very large village, there lived a young girl named Ujunwa. She was very polite and kind, raised by her grandmother, whom she called Nene. They lived together in a small hut on the edge of the village. Ujunwa and Nene were very poor. They had no farmland of their own, so they relied on the little they could grow in their small garden. They also had few trades that Nene could make. Their poverty was not just because they had little. The villagers also avoided them. No one wanted to be their friend, and people did not want to trade with them. Those who traded with them did it in secret. This was because Ujunwa was born out of wedlock, which means her parents were not married when she was born. Ujunwa's mother, Nkolika, was a beautiful and naive girl who fell in love at a very young age. She met a man who promised her the world. He spoke sweet words and made grand promises, making her believe in a bright future together. But this man was deceitful. He hid the fact that he was already married with children. When Nkolika found out she was pregnant, she approached him, hoping to discuss their future. Instead, she was met with cold rejection. "I cannot be with you," the man said, his voice without the warmth it once held. "I have a family." Nkolika's heart shattered. "But you never told me you had a wife," she cried, her eyes filled with tears. The man shrugged, uncaring of her pain. "It doesn't matter now. I cannot be seen with you. You must understand." With that, he left, leaving Nkoli to bear the brunt of the village's judgment alone. The villagers were unforgiving. Nkoli was branded a homewrecker, a stigma that extended to her family. Her mother, Nene, bore the whispers and pointed fingers with a strong face, but inside she was deeply hurt. Nkoli, still a teenager herself, was unable to handle the constant ridicule and scorn. Women at the stream would whisper and snicker as she approached. "Here comes the husband snatcher. Hide your men," they would say. Ashamed and humiliated, Nkoli would often leave without fetching water. To protect her daughter from this cruelty, Nene sent Nkolika to live with relatives in a faraway village. This was a hard decision, but it gave Nkolika a chance for a new start. Nkoli left, leaving behind her baby daughter, Ujunwa, with Nene. Ujunwa grew up with the love and care of Nene. She was taught to be respectful and kind, even though the villagers were mean to her. The shame that was once on Nkolika was now on Ujunwa. Children her age played together, but they did not include her. When she tried to join them, they reminded her of her mother's disgrace. "You are just like your mother," they would say. "Our mothers told us not to play with you." These words hurt Ujunwa deeply. She would often come home in tears, feeling very lonely. Nene would comfort her, holding her close. "Do not listen to them, my child," Nene would say. "You are a good girl. You have done nothing wrong. The village will see your goodness one day." Despite these kind words, Ujunwa felt like an outsider. She watched from a distance as the other children played, wishing she could join them, but she was too afraid of being rejected again. Ujunwa grew up to be a very beautiful young lady, just like her mother, but she didn't see it. She felt insecure about her whole being and felt everyone hated her, making her doubt herself. She preferred to be alone, avoiding people as much as possible. She would go to fetch firewood or water by herself, not wanting to face anyone watching her. When it was time to fetch water, Ujunwa had a routine. She would hide in the bushes near the river, watching and waiting for everyone to leave. She was too afraid to step out around. One day she was sitting near her by the was she picking grass in her pot. Suddenly, she had to make sound until came back and began to chase. She was then walking with her, calm and steady, but she knew that she didn't have to face anyone. What is it? Ujunwa was in the bushes near her, but I did not stop coming to her. She grew her face and felt back, but she finally went to the river. She started back to the river. She started back to the river.
many wives, had not given him any children. The king was deeply troubled and didn't understand what was happening in his kingdom.
The king assured his people that he would investigate the matter.
He sent his men to research the entire village. They discovered that the last child born before Ujunwa's son was 5 years ago. Ujunwa's pregnancy was the only one in years. The king's men reported their findings, and the king called another meeting to share the news with his villagers. The villagers were shocked and confused. Why was Ujunwa the only woman able to have children? The news caused anger and frustration among the people. They demanded that the king summon Ujunwa so they could see for themselves. The king agreed, and Ujunwa was brought before the crowd. Visibly pregnant, Ujunwa stood before the villagers, who stared in amazement. If Ujunwa is pregnant, maybe there is still hope for us, one man said. But no one understood why she was the only one who could conceive. This confusion and lack of understanding led to chaos in the village. The situation grew worse. Young married women, desperate for children, began flirting with Akolisa, begging to lie with him in hopes of becoming pregnant. Many men, driven by jealousy and frustration, started desiring Ujunwa, believing that she held the secret to fertility. Ujunwa and Akolisa found themselves in a difficult and dangerous situation. The villagers now looked at them with suspicion and envy. Every day, the pressure grew, and Ujunwa felt the weight of the villagers' expectations and desires pressing down on her. Even the parents who had once refused to let their sons marry Ujunwa now began to beg her for help. I cannot live without seeing even one grandchild. Ujunwa, please, you are the only one who can help my family, one parent pleaded. Another family would say, please, just see our son once. We are desperate. Year after year passed, and Ujunwa and Akolisa stood firm in their refusal to give in to these requests. However, the pressure continued to mount. The situation reached a breaking point when the king himself summoned Akolisa to his palace. The king, once proud and authoritative, now kneeled before Akolisa. Desperation etched on his face. Akolisa, I beg you, he pleaded. Allow Ujunwa to spend just one night with me. I will lose my kingship if I don't produce an heir soon. I have even run out of women to marry. Please,
I will give you all the gold and silver you desire. But Akolisa, deeply in love with his wife, refused. No amount of gold will make me give up my wife, he said firmly, and left the king. The king, however, would not be denied. He sent his men to Akolisa's house to capture Ujunwa. They overpowered everyone and took her away. At that time, Ujunwa was pregnant with her third child. The king, seeing her condition, decided to give her some privacy, but his desire to make her his queen was undiminished. When the king saw Ujunwa, he was captivated by her beauty and grace. He announced to the entire village that Ujunwa would be crowned queen. The villagers gathered in awe and confused as Ujunwa, visibly distressed, was crowned. Immediately after the crowning ceremony, a man insisted that he had an important message for everyone. Given the podium, he began to speak passionately. "Repent, everyone. I have received a message while praying. I saw a vision of our villagers throwing a pregnant woman into the river, accusing her of being an adulterer. She lost her child and a crocodile bit off her leg. Her anger and sorrow are the reasons we cannot conceive. Her curse is upon us." The crowd murmured in confusion and disbelief. One villager stood up and shouted, "You are a liar. Why did Ujunwa give birth then? I mean, our queen. Isn't she from our village? Why didn't the curse touch her?" The man replied calmly, "The queen is not originally from this village, and neither is her husband, Akolisa. The curse did not affect them because they are not of the bloodline involved in the sin." The king, now agitated, interrupted, "She is my wife now and your queen." Ignoring the king's outburst, the man continued, "As long as you are from this village, there is no escaping this curse." The old woman, after fulfilling her revenge, passed on. "We must seek forgiveness for our parents' sins." The woman's spirit is underwater, still angry over losing her child because of the villagers' cruelty. Some villagers laughed at him hysterically, mocking his words, but others began to think deeply about what he said. The man finished, "What you do next is up to you," and he left the crowd. The village was in turmoil. Some believed the man's words, while others dismissed him as a madman. Ujunwa, now the queen, was trapped in a web of confusion and fear. She did not want to be with the king, but her own family's safety depended on her compliance. Akolisa, heartbroken and powerless, struggled to find a way to rescue his beloved wife. In the days that followed, the village elders and kingmakers gathered to discuss the pressing situation. After much debate, the conversation grew heated. "We know our king doesn't believe in God. If he doesn't repent, he will never be a child of his own blood," one elder stated firmly. Another elder countered, "But can you just believe the words you hear from a stranger?" Yet another elder supported the stranger's message. "Those words make sense. It's been 8 years now, and what the man said aligns with our situation. If you think about it, it makes absolute sense." After much discussion, they all agreed that since the king could not produce an heir, it was better to crown Akolisa as the new king. This way, his children and future generations would marry outside and produce heirs, ensuring the village's survival. They saw this as the right course of action. The decision was made, and it was announced that a new king would be crowned. Every villager was to be present on the appointed day. When the day arrived, the current king, knowing the traditions, was dethroned. Unaware of the events unfolding, Akolisa was ordered to wash and dress by the elders. He was utterly surprised when he was led to the throne and crowned king. The entire village was in awe. Those who had mocked and bullied Ujunwa and her family were left speechless. The older village knew they had to respect the new king and queen for the sake of the kingdom. Akolisa, still in shock after the crowning, sat with the elders and declared, "I will only have one queen, only Ujunwa."
The elders reassured him. The former king's wives have already left with him. The following week, Ujunwa gave birth to her third child. She was overjoyed to be saved from the king and to have her family back. She brought Nnene and her mother Nkoli to the palace to live with them. As Ujunwa walked through the village, everyone would kneel, even the women who had bullied her all her life. Many wished they could at least be her stylists or hold her shoes as she walked. I wish I had treated her differently. I would be the queen's friend by now, or at least babysit her children, one woman said as they walked to the river. The village was never the same. Most families were in agony of wanting children, while others learned to accept the situation. Ujunwa and Akolisa became different kinds of leaders. They changed many traditional rules, including the harsh treatment of women impregnated by disloyal men. The rules they couldn't change, they left to God. Ujunwa continued to give birth to more children, and she and Akolisa had a very big, happy family. Their reign was marked by fairness and kindness. The end.